Welcome to another episode of Independence for America. At Independence for America, we tell the stories of state and local independent candidates. Today, I am interviewing Erik Johnson from St Albans, Vermont. Erik recently won a seat on the St Albans City Council. Hi, Erik. How you doing today?
I'm good. And yourself?
Doing great. It's a real sunny day here in Arlington, Virginia. How's it doing out there?
It's sunny, but 34 here.
Okay.
So cool, but nice.
Yeah, not too bad. So I've been looking at your stuff online and some of your website and things like that. So I've gotten a pretty good idea of who you are and everything like that. But can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and growing up and maybe like family and values and that type of thing?
Definitely. So originally I'm from Central Mass, right on Worcester County. Growing up, I followed my parents to every public event they went to, everything they did. And honestly, that was a huge part of my life as a kid. My father was a Freemason. My mother's part of the Oxford Women's Club. They were both part of the bandstand committee. So just being active outdoors all the time was just something that we did. There was a little kids parade at the Founders Day every year, and we'd always decorate our bikes up. And I remember being featured a few times in the local newspaper. And, it was kind of that upbringing that kind of tied me into the civic duties I do now. I moved to Vermont about in 1998. My father moved here, going from being an on-the-road service tech to being a local quality engineer. So we picked up the whole family, moved up here. At first, I was like, oh God, Vermont. I don't want to go to Vermont. I want to stay in Mass. I know all the people. And I got here and fell in love with it, honestly. It's a little bit more slow going, so it's a little bit easier to kind of just meld right into everything happening, but it's very community driven, and that was awesome. So again, parents got involved up here. I got involved in things, scouts, became an Eagle Scout in Milton. I was part of the Franklin County Humane Society. My mother was a board member, so of course my Eagle Scout project was building a sign for them. So it's all about tying back in. And that led into going to Vermont Tech. I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do coming out of high school. I knew I was strong in math and science, so I went into engineering, and it was a great opportunity to get away from home. I mean, hour and a half. I know some people don't consider that away from home, but go home on the weekends, dump your laundry, head back to school. But on campus, the first year, we actually had a student had a heart attack on campus, and it took 15 minutes for the ambulance to arrive, and it was kind of tragic. And that kind of spurred a couple friends of mine and myself to start the Vermont Tech First Responders. So that was our next step into things, and that led to me becoming an EMT and running for almost 10 years as a volunteer EMT between different services. Vermont Tech, I then joined Student Council. They had just changed from the Vermont Tech Associated Student Body to Vermont Tech Student Council. They wanted to rebrand everything, redo everything, and I was the first treasurer. So I got into finding ways of saving money in the budget, making sure that Computer Club gets some, brand new computers, while Paintball Club gets some used but gently used equipment for they needed. So it's like just balancing everything out. So getting out of there, continued my EMS service.
Let me stop you there because I want to dive a little bit back to your time in Massachusetts. So another connection we have is my oldest son, Patrick, graduated from Holy Cross. So I'm sure you're familiar with Holy Cross. And, it's a big university town, a lot of other universities in Worcester. And so, you're talking about the bike parade. Have you thought about implementing the bike parade for St. Albans?
Yeah, actually, so we have a spring Maple Fest, which tends to be very corporate. Community still gets involved in the parade. I march in the parade. So I'm actually, as a city councilor, we get up front with all our volunteer board members and we hand out shirts. So there's the spring side of that. But our charter actually was in the fall. I believe it was August. And I've actually thought about trying to introduce a Founders Day again. That would be more community centric. So churches, scout groups, nonprofits could go to the park, set up booths, sell slush puppies or corn. And that's what I did in Mass with my dad. I sold corn and slush puppies because those were the two things that sold on a cold or warm day. Right. My mother was always at the next booth with a cotton candy. So I've talked about doing that here as well. And the bike parade would definitely be one of those things.
So I looked at some pictures of St. Albans. It totally looks like a really quaint New England town and everything. So could you kind of describe the town and the people? And, we got people all over the country listening to this podcast. So I want to get people a feel for what it's like in your small town.
So if anybody wants to be able to see a not live broadcast, but a recorded news broadcast, a couple of years ago, we had a beautiful snow day that one of our local photographers put a drone up, not myself, over Taylor Park, and it actually got featured, I believe, on ABC New York, which was kind of cool because it kind of brought Vermont to the rest of the world. But from St. Albans itself, we have 6,600 people in the city of St. Albans, and that's just based on density and size of the city. And then beyond us is a ring around us of the town of St. Albans, which is about 4,400 people. So altogether, about 10,000 people between the two. Over the years, we began sharing resources between town and city. Recently, our police department started covering both the town and city, where previously it was the sheriff. So that's helped kind of bring resources together, both fiscally as well as, just manpower, and also community, because there's that now the sense of like, we know what's happening there, they know what's happening here, and we're slowly building towards more harmonious kind of bonded St. Albans. I don't say join because that's still a little bit scary to a lot of people up here, because the towns that have joined in the past, they were successful, but there's a lot of things that are unanswered until you do it, and I think that's kind of scares my neighbors and stuff a little bit. The people around here are normally the types that will hold the door for you when you come up to it, but they're also the types that might skip the stop sign. So you just got to pay attention both ways. When you cross the crosswalk in Worcester, you do it when it's a red light on the direction you're going, so that way you can make sure you get across safely. Up here, it's good to check 3 times to make sure someone's not on the phone, or we have no cell phone, hands-free law up here, but it's still kind of a plaguing issue. I'm sure everywhere it is.
I think any local jurisdiction has a problem with, and I'm a local civic leader here in Arlington, Virginia, and to me, you can't count on the government to solve all these problems. A lot of it is behavior, right? And I'm really trying to think of innovative ways to affect people's behavior so they can be safer. And now we have pedestrians and cyclists and scooters and everything like that.
A lot more of them, yeah. And actually tying into that, working in the school system in Milton, I see every day these different styles or different tones of kids. Kids that come from households where they're friends of the parents, they tend to be a little bit more high-strung, a little bit harder to kind of behave. And then the kids that come from families that really put that responsibility back on them, that's changes. You see these kids that are holding the door again or helping the teacher out. And I think, in my opinion, since I was a kid, I've seen that shift smaller and smaller, the kids willing to help the teacher out. And I think it has a lot to play into these kids getting their licenses and getting out there. And, I'm in my own little world.
Yeah.
Recently, we saw a lot of tinted windows suddenly coming up, and that's illegal in Vermont, but they're tinting them anyways. And it's like they're in their world at that point. So if they do something, they're not going to get in trouble. And that's the same mentality.
Yeah, I have so my kids, I basically laid down the law and I said, look, before you get your license, you're going to learn how to use public transportation. I live in Arlington, Virginia. It's pretty, semi-urban area and everything. Yeah. And I totally think that all parents everywhere should do that, because it's also pretty cool, because then they learn how to use public transportation, and then they're free to do a whole bunch of things, right? So they started hopping on the bus and the metro and going downtown DC and going to sporting events and music events and everything.
And I think you tie into the issue there, right? You say Richmond had, you said what, 800,000 people?
Arlington. Arlington has 240,000 people in 24 square miles.
So you have 1/3 of our entire state. So public transit here is the one bus that comes here twice a day in the morning and the afternoon, and we have Amtrak that leaves twice a day. So it's harder, but I get I definitely agree with you. Massachusetts, there's a lot more options available. Here it's taxi or Uber if you really want to use public transit. But getting back to the people too, they were really embracing too, and I wanted to get involved civically. It's I started with the downtown committee, which is funded by a program from the state to help boost downtowns in Vermont. And we had a beautification project, came from that before my time. But I got in and involved when they were doing events. They were trying to build customer bases for local small businesses. And it really was that committee welcomed me in as an asset, and we all had our piece to contribute. And my next step from that was just to grow into other committees and kind of continue growing as the city grew. So it's been kind of a good place, and people are great for that.
All right. So you're really falling in love with this town. You're serving on these civic committees. Tell me about your decision-making process to run for local office.
Definitely. So one of the things I have as a background is communications and marketing, and tying back into listening to the people and hearing them say, I didn't know this project was happening, or I didn't know that initiative was going to happen. When did they tell us we're going to pave Lincoln and close it down for 2 days? We didn't get notice. And it's it was notice, as in the bottom of a letter on the back of your public works bill or water bill. So there's these communication platforms, kind of what I wanted to get in and run on. And my previous ward counselor here, he was a sitting body. He had a legal background to bring to the council, but when it came to knowing what was happening or hearing from him or being able to reach him, it was a little bit more difficult. And I wanted to be the person that was available, accessible, and responsive, because that's the big thing. Right now, I have about once a month, I come up with a legit question. I've either come up myself or I've had come to me, and I send it off to our representatives because I want to know what's happening in the state. And then I feed that back through what I call wordly news to my constituents and the community. And I've already had feedback from multiple people saying they like it. It's there once a month knowing what's happening. So when I got out there, that was my biggest push, was communication, engagement, transparency. I sit in every school board meeting in Milton, and they have a lot of executive sessions. We don't. And it's like, I understand there is a need, but it's great to discuss stuff in open session whenever we can, not put anything behind walls if we don't have to.
Yeah, I really like how you bring a lot of, your communications background, your visual, your website ability and your photography ability. It's so important in this day and age that you're able to communicate both in writing, but also visually to the community. And, I do think that's really important. So you decide to run. Tell me a little bit about, like, every state's different. And so this is a non-partisan position on the city council. Yep. And the other thing, explaining to people in Arlington, sadly, everybody's at large. And again, we have 169,000 people in our electorate. So it's really hard to get a message out to that. But you explained to me that you have districts and it's kind of a small town. So that helps a lot. So, tell me about the process. Did you have to get some signatures and did you have to file all the paperwork and form a committee and that type of thing?
Not so much a committee, but I'll definitely back into it. We have wards up here, and every ward has about 1,100 people in it. So we have 6 of them. That gets us to our 6,600. Honestly, here in this setting, a more general populace would have got me friends that live in other wards that would definitely have, signed my petition and voted for me. But on the other hand, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you just said, I didn't have to spend as much to reach my constituents because it's a smaller base. And it's also a lot less walking. So when you run for Senate or House, you have to hit the whole county or your district. And locally, there's a lot of people. But for me, it was a little bit easier to get out there. Fortunately, getting on the ballot required 1% of your people or 50 signatures. So I got out there and got my signatures. I met people I never met. I definitely utilized a couple tools that talked about, like our voter registration or check-in is available online. So I was able to say, okay, these people go and vote. That means they're civically minded. So I'm going to go meet them. I want to reach everybody. I want to help everybody. I did knock a couple doors of people that didn't vote. But it's mostly focusing on the people that want to get engaged. They want to help. And I was trying to get their signatures and then get them on board with me. And then I did door hangers as a graphic design background.
That's a good idea.
A little help Yeah. I had help from my partner. We went on to door hangers, a lot of them. I think we have 448 homes, and I did 500 door hangers altogether. And then I also, like you said, I did the website. I have background in that. A couple friends of mine that are actually in the state, they commented that I kind of ran a state campaign at the local level, and I get that. Vermont's small.
You overachieved, okay?
I normally do.
Right.
So a campaign at the state level is probably what you see in Arlington at the local level. So for here, our local level wouldn't be a thing that you guys touch on, besides maybe the person running for a chamber chair or something,
Right.
So there was that. There was business cards. I handed one to everybody I shook hands with just to kind of get my name out there and get repeated. I had QR codes on it. It's a big important thing. And then a fun one for me that actually worked better than I thought it would is I ordered door clings or window clings for my car. It was on brand, same style, but white. And people were like, "Oh, you're Erik, and I've seen your publication, I've seen your website, or I've heard about you," and that really spurred a lot of movement.
So tell me, that's a really unique thing. So just like something, it's like something you put over your windows of your car or something.
Yep, you spray the window down with water, you put it over and squeegee it on, and it stays there. I mean, you can even roll down the windows; it stays there really well. When I went to take it off, I actually had to apply some force to get it off because it just kind of was stuck.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that tactic before. That's good.
Yeah, we were just talking about driver safety. I try to be a sound driver. I try to be a safe driver. Being from Mass, you look down, you're like, oh, you're going faster than you should. Slow down. But with that thing on me, I was even more diligent than I normally am. I'm like, yeah, your name's on the car. That means you should be smart, even smarter. Which you don't always see from business owners. You see like business owners cut people off and they've got their name on the side of the truck. It's like, guys, come on. Everything's PR, marketing. So that was a big win for me. I didn't expect. And then I did the signs. And the signs was an interesting one because the current alderman, he ran again and he put re-elect on his signs and he got a certain number out. And when he started, it was after I had started my campaign. Like I started about the same time people normally do. And I don't think he expected anyone to run.
Right.
So he started getting his out. So I started putting mine out. And at one point, he got a new batch and put more out. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to order 10 more. And, then, as you know, they're not inexpensive. They definitely charge what they're worth. But I have them for next time I run as well.
I made mistakes when I ran, and I waited way too long to get a professional photographer. So I finally got one who did a fantastic job. And then I even hired a graphic artist to design my yard signs because I didn't want to just have the same old yard signs that everybody else has, right? So running as an independent, I really wanted it to be purple. That was one thing. And then it's kind of hard to describe, but I don't know if you know this, in Arlington in the last 10 years, they built the beautiful Air Force Memorial. It has these stainless steel spires that are like 10 stories high, and they're always gleaming off the sun and everything like that. And it's in Arlington. I mean, it's in federal land, but it's in Arlington, right? And we had a big controversy about what should be the new logo for Arlington, and I thought that would be perfect. And of course, the county board decided to have something different, right? So there's a big controversy going on. But my graphic artist, she heard my story, why I thought it was really important, and she incorporated it into my yard sign, right? And so my last name is Cantwell, and so the two L's at the end have the spires going like this, right?
I like that.
So it's very unique, not one of the kind or anything like that. And so I'm using the color being purple, and then also something local, but also visually appealing, right? So, and then back to the door hangers, I think that's a great idea too, because a lot of people just make flyers, but then what do you do when you get to a door, right? Yeah, you can hand a flyer to somebody, but if the person's not home, you want to be as fast as you can, and you go boink, and you just put the door hanger on it, right?
And I even got ones that the bottom actually tore off as a little business card. So then they could quickly save that and toss the rest if they wanted. It wasn't like, oh, I have to keep this.
Right. No, it's really.
I did do postcards too.
All those things are really important for local campaigns. And the other thing this is another thing that it is, I'm not a big fan of the election apps, because you're constantly looking at your phone. And when we talked on the phone earlier, greeting people as they're walking on the sidewalk and petting people's dogs and everything like that, in my mind, is so important, right? So if you're sitting there looking at your phone like this and you're going like this, you don't look very approachable, and people kind of get turned off by that. So I'm just like,
I might have intimidated anyways. I brought a clipboard.
Yeah, clipboard's a little different, but because you need to hand people things, right? But I think hopefully you get what I'm saying about looking at your phone is really a turnoff in my mind. So. All right, let me go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say two last things I also did for the campaign was letters to the editor. I put 3 out. Even when my competition stepped down, I actually thanked him for running, thanked him for his time, put it out there, and that people really appreciated that. And that was genuine. I meant it. And then the other thing was when you're getting out there, a friend of mine said, don't be afraid to reach out to family and friends. It's hard to ask family and friends for money. It's like, you don't want to do that, but they're the ones that are going to support you first. Yeah. And I did that, and I raised enough to cover 90% of what I needed for my campaign, and I just had enough in the rest. So yeah,
the whole friends and family are really important. All right, let's fast forward to election day, and then actually getting elected, and then actually getting sworn in.
Yeah, definitely. Election day was anxiety day because it was my first time doing any type of voted office short of student council, which actually I think now that I think about it, may have been appointed the first time. So yeah, it was definitely an anxious day for me. I actually stood out there all day long, with the exception of running into the coffee shop to grab a pastry a couple times and grabbing some coffee because it was pretty cold that day. But otherwise, I was out there with my sign. I was greeting people, saying hello to people. Most people said hello back. It was great. At one point, my fellow that I told you yesterday did Ward 6. He was appointed because he wasn't on the ballot. He didn't get enough write-ins. I helped him by saying, hey, go to the UPS store. They'll have the boards you need to write your sign on. And he was grateful for that. So I was there all day, greeting people. It was a long day, 12 hours, 7 to 7. Went in to vote at one point, made sure I put away my button I had on and put my sign down. And our town clerk's amazing. She's great. She's like, yeah, you can hide it behind the table here inside if you want, right. So it doesn't blow away. I'm like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a thing, and I respect that. I'm being from Massachusetts. Totally. You don't see people even 50 yards away from the voting center, and here they're like right on the front steps. And I don't like that, So I stood back. I tried to let people feel like they're not pressured.
Yeah.
So then, first meeting of the month, again, anxiety coming back. Sitting up front, cameras on for the local access. And, there's actually a decent number of people there. We normally average 5 to 15 meetings, and this was about 20 people, which is good. And it was myself. The mayor was getting renewed. Chad Boudreaux, Ward 6. I think it was just the three of us. And we stood up, and she did this all at the same time. I have the newspaper I actually saved, City Council Reorganized, which is an article by a local reporter that he doesn't have a lot to go on with Vermont, St Albans, Vermont. So what he does, he kind of delves deeply into, and I appreciate that. The first meeting was short. And then after that, it was kind of learning the ropes, keeping my mouth shut, which, as you know, I'm talking here a lot. You probably see is hard for me, but I didn't want to overstep. So I wanted to learn. So the first couple of months, when I was asked for an opinion, I brought it in. If I had concerns in my ward, I brought them in. But otherwise, I was listening and watching to learn how we operate. So we're primarily a city manager-run city, kind of like he makes the decisions and suggests or presents them to us to do the final vote on, and most of them are great. Sound decisions. So we trust him to do that part. And
it's really important to get a highly competent, town manager or city manager.
Definitely.
And
our growth is based on him. He brought the growth we have now, so he's good.
So what are some issues that you had to deal with in the last 9 months?
One of the issues that came up, as I mentioned, vehicle safety. So people were concerned because a couple kids were close to clipped by trucks and cars on their way to meet the bus in the morning. We have a walking school bus on Wednesdays in the warmer weather.
We have that here. It's really cool to have that.
Yeah. But one of those incidents happened during that time. It was a relatively well-lit sidewalk. I mean, it's an older light, so we're looking at getting it replaced. But Vermont has Act 250, which we have to be careful how much light we reflect back up, but we still need to address safety. So, that kind of became a focus at the same time as the city was dealing with an increase of unhoused people and also an increase in the same 12 individuals committing crime. So there's a lot more calls for, hey, someone's in my car, someone went through my car, someone shoplifted, pickpocketed, or not, they shoplifted into the pockets and left. That one of those incidents was 7 times in one day. Oh so God. It's one person. And then we had to contend with the state changing judicial law, taking away a lot of the tools that our DA would use to incentivize them to either get into programs or maybe, go to jail based on the tools. And we had a shorter release window. We could only hold people for a very short period of time. I can't remember what the numbers off the top of my head, and they had to be re-released. So we'd see people go in for shoplifting, and the next day be back out there shoplifting. And we're still dealing with that. And that's hopefully going to change over the next couple months. The state's bringing back tools, but again, local level, not a lot we can do. So what I did is going back to the pedestrian, I joined one of those walking Wednesdays, which ironically was the day that nobody did anything stupid, but it was a great experience. It was early in the morning, 6:30, I think it was. And I walked them all the way to St Albans Town City School. We picked up people along the way. It was great. And I get to experience it. And that was just one of the examples of getting involved. Green Up Day last year came right after I got appointed. I tried rallying the troops this year. I'm doubling down on the efforts. I've got the other wards on a website that I'm putting together saying, hey, this is where you need to go. Here's what you need to get. This is the times to be there. And here's how to handle if you come across sharps or, where you need to put garbage. So that's another initiative kind of delving into. But we've been fortunate. Our financials over the last 3 years were pretty close to 0% change at the city level because we had a lot of educational increases. But that obviously causes a bubble. So when I was sworn in, I was put on the finance committee, which was kind of like, oh, wow. But we tried our best to make sure we had the police supported the way they needed to be to address the calls, while also not killing any of the services in the city. Like, we didn't want to impact recreation. They've grown so much. We didn't want to impact public works, obviously. So we had to do like an 8 to 9% increase, which I was, we were all trepidous about passing, and it passed, which was excellent. And I thank St Albans again for that.
Right.
So like, those are kind of some of the hurdles that came up, just initially, and it's been a year now, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the community. I'm hoping to run again and win again, hopefully, and keep my seat and continue helping contribute back.
Well, we definitely need more people like you to run for office. I mean, obviously, you're invested in your community, and you really want the best for it. And I just think that's fantastic. Let me circle a little bit back to tell us a little bit about the Good Party and how they helped you with your campaign. And then, do you know anything about the Forward Party?
Yeah, Good Party was a Google search, actually. I was looking for tools for beginners. People have not run before, and that was kind of like their initial big thing, is they want to get those people that want to be civic leaders that aren't there yet, and they want to be independent and not assigned to one of the parties. And that was like it really talked to me a lot. So I signed up. I used some of the AI tools. It was great for the checklist, more for me. They had a lot of like, hey, did you do this yet? Did you do that yet? Did you make sure you filed your financial report with the state secretary? I'm like, yep. So those were the big tools that came out of it. I didn't utilize so much like I think there was a call tree program that came out while I was running in it, and there's a couple other forms of like tools that would help me, including like
text banking, I think.
Yeah. And I felt like just reaching the people here, I wanted to be in person with them. So I didn't do those tools quite yet. But I did use a lot of the other tools. When they reached out to me to ask for an interview and just kind of do an article on me as a new running independent up here in Vermont, I was grateful for the opportunity. And I think like you do, it's about sharing the story and encouraging other people to do the same. It's like there's opportunities out there, and it doesn't have to be scary. You can get into it and just do it. And Good Parties kind of help support that way. The Forward Party, honestly, I hadn't heard a lot about it yet. For a long time, I was a fence rider, and then with recent administrative changes, then I tended to push more to the left. I say that in a way that's like I was kind of getting tired of seeing the rhetoric and extremism coming from both sides, but the right definitely scared me. But then, working with Good Party and stepping back, I was seeing an opportunity to like kind of reflect on like the parties are both extreme. I ignored a lot of the other parties, honestly. It's not ignored them, but like I didn't research into them as much as I should have. And today I got in and looked at the Forward Party, and I think the concept makes sense. It's not about having extremisms on any of the points and the talking points. It's about building from the bottom up and kind of reforming how we are as a system. I mean, we're still built on what it was back, when they wrote the Constitution. Things have changed. It's like we need to evolve.
Yeah. Well, we have so much toxic polarization in this country now. It is just awful. And I really do think the Forward Party is a solution. We need more parties. We need more independents. We need more people running for office. There's a lot of offices that don't even have enough people running for them, that type of thing.
No.
So.
Yeah, and I think on the larger scale, the parties are necessary only to compete with the big parties as far as like having the tools and the base behind you. And that's why Good Party was a good thing for independents. But also, I agree with you. At the smaller offices, you don't have to have, I'm a Democrat or Republican. It's even the state level here in Vermont. We have plenty of independents that win in the House and state. They just don't end up running the House or state because Republicans or Democrats have a higher number.
Well, and we talked about this before, but you do have a few independent state senators and state reps there, and which is really unique in a lot of states. I think Maine has some. I think Alaska has some. And one of the earlier podcasts is Laura Sibilia, who represents an area farther south than you are. So I'm optimistic. I think people are just getting fed up with the two legacy parties. They really just don't speak to a lot of people anymore, right? So
yeah.
So are you? Would you ever consider higher office? I'll put you on the spot here.
I've had that question come up a few times. It's not on the spot anymore. That decision kind of ran through my head a few times. And the first time I was asked, I blurted out I wanted to run for state senate. And then I really started considering it more. I started considering my impact it can have on the community, and the Senate is where I want to go next. The House is great, but your districts are smaller. I think the influence sometimes that the Senate can have, looking at the bigger picture, like we share a lot of resources with our fellow towns or neighboring towns. There's no reason why I wouldn't want to be able to touch base with them and connect with them to see what their resources that they have and what resources we have can work together. It's like Vermont's good at reinventing the wheel, and I'm all for trying to ask, hey, how'd you guys do it? Using that, building it to work for us, but using that again, because it's too much money spent in this country just redoing what's already been done themselves instead of asking how'd you do it. State Senate would be kind of where I want to go next.
All right. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. So what I'd like you to do is, look right into the camera. You're pitching to everybody in the country, and somebody's just sitting there on their couch or driving their car home from work, and they're like, maybe I could run for local office. So what advice would you give them?
Don't be scared. Honestly, if you want to run for local office, if you've been thinking about running for local office, I say talk to people who have done it, because they'll all say the same thing. It is rewarding and can be enriching. That feeling that you get from doing something good is something that will push you to try even more and harder. But if you're even thinking about doing it, it's not hard. Talk to your local city clerks. They know the process. No matter where you are in the country, it's the city clerk you go to or the town clerk. They're the people that do the registrations. They're the people that know what the process is, how to get your petition signed, where to get your petition. And a lot of states have gone online with those resources. They're making it easier and easier to find. So if you're just curious at this point, do your research. Just look around. AI is a thing. Ask AI, hey, I live in Wyoming. How do I run for city council? Right. And it'll give you resources, and make sure you cite your work.
Exactly.
But it's worth doing. I don't have countless hours spent every month. Some months are busier, some months are quiet. This last month has been a quiet month for us. The month before, I had 6 different interviews for local committees they're under city council, and it's those are rewarding because we're putting people in place that are going to make change, or they're going to advise for change. So,
absolutely,
definitely worth doing.
All right, Erik. I really do appreciate you spending time on the Independence for America podcast, and to all my listeners out there, run, win, and serve. Peace.
Thank you for the opportunity.